It's always good to see you, Joshua. So let's talk about those cuts, first of all, those stimulus measures and whether or not it's going to work. You know, how important are these cuts?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a notable move because it's one of the biggest cut to the 1 year and 5 year loan prime rate for years. Now, generally, we've seen over recent years sort of 10 basis point cuts. We'd heard on Friday from the PBOC governor that he was alluding to the possibility of a 20 to 25 basis point cut. We saw the 25 basis point cut. So they're certainly taking the steps needed to boost the economy. It comes, of course, off the back of a raft of data on Friday where we saw better than expected industrial production, retail sales. We saw a move lower in terms of unemployment. But in terms of the GDP number, we saw a tick lower, down to 4.6%. The year-end target, of course, is to try to get up to that 5% marker. I think it's going to be quite difficult, quite frankly, but it's tough to really gauge exactly how much of this stimulus is going to sort of feed through into the economy over the coming months. The near term, it's all about people having enough confidence in the economy turning around for them to turn around their economic behaviours. So certainly the announcement on Friday, if it's the beginning of a period of upside in terms of the economic data, that hopefully should feed through to people on the ground and they start taking investment decisions in line with cheaper borrowing rates, as we've seen in place today, but also a feeling that things have really bottomed out and that we're seeing China moving in a positive trajectory.
Now, China, of course, is quite ahead in the race for gold, and gold is pretty much the main story on the markets right now. Record highs, almost 40% higher than this time a year ago. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, look, for people that like to trade, it has been pretty much a straight line. I mean, look, if you look over the course of this year, we saw January where gold moved lower, but since then, every single month we've seen gold gaining ground. Ultimately, it's as with any sort of market, you always try to look at the different factors that might push the price up or down. And it does feel like everything's pretty much lining up for the bullish side of things. You've got sort of geopolitical risk playing in at the moment. You've got the fact that many of the assets in Russia were frozen recently by the West. So that pushes people within some of these countries that might fear such an activity happening to them. Instead of putting assets into the West, they might put it into the price of gold. You also looking, of course, at monetary easing. You've seen a boom in terms of debt for many of these countries and sort of rolling over in terms of treasury yield. So the sort of risk-free return that you get from that starts to devalue. So there's a lot that really plays into it at the moment, and certainly the trend is your friend when it comes to trading, and the trend certainly continues to move towards the upside.
There is a lot going on playing into the price of gold at the moment. But you know what? One of the themes of the BRICS summit that we've just been talking about is around alternatives to the dollar-dominated international financial systems. How do you think that the gold price is a reflection of that?
Well, this is the interesting one, right? Because if you look at these different factors as to why your standard person on the street might buy or sell gold, they're lining up. That's great. Okay, but if you have a look underneath the bonnet of this, you see massive buying from BRICS nations in particular. The big story has all been about China and Russia, and for good reason. They hold 16% of the world's global gold reserves. But if you look elsewhere within BRICS, we've seen really significant buying from the likes of Brazil, the likes of India. They've been ramping it up over recent years. There's talk of this supposed alternative BRICS currency, which people are speculating could be backed by gold. And certainly if you look at the behaviour of those BRICS countries, they certainly are moving in a big way towards gold. So it does feel like people within, say, Wall Street, but also within central banks are all very heavily geared towards gold, and we've been seeing that pushing the price of gold towards the upside. And everyone, certainly the gold bugs, are going to be looking this week towards the summit to see any sort of further indications of whether we will see talk of this gold-backed digital currency.